Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another video. So today, December 15th of the year 2020, we have some actual good, dare I say great, news about the future of Star Wars games and the direction they're headed, and I think you guys will be very happy to know that this information is coming directly from one of the members of the story group over at Lucasfilm. If you don't know, the Lucasfilm story group are the people in charge of continuity. They try their best to make sure games aren't contradicting books, and books aren't contradicting movies, and movies aren't contradicting comics. You get it. I can't imagine that's an easy job considering how much Star Wars there is between comics and movies and books and games, but they do their best. Needless to say, the story group is involved with Star Wars projects from the beginning, or at the very least from very early on, because for the most part the writing has to come first, and you can't have someone writing out the plot for a game or a comic or a book that doesn't mesh with canon, so that's where the story group comes in to consult and work things out so the canon isn't a complete mess. Of course, they don't make the major decisions on where stories go, they just try to make sure things don't conflict and tear the canon apart. Anyway, Matt Martin, who is not only part of the story group but is the creative executive over there, and has been at Lucasfilm since well before the Disney buyout, was asked over on Twitter if Star Wars fans have any reason to be excited about the future of Star Wars games. When you consider that support was cut for Battlefront 2, and the fact that the only Star Wars game from EA that we know is coming is the Fallen Order sequel, there is reason to be worried about what EA is even doing. What games are in development that they haven't yet announced? What games are planned for next year? Is Battlefront 3 safe? Is it alright? Of course, EA has the license until 2023, and I think it's safe to say there are more games than just the Fallen Order sequel in development right now, but we just don't know what those are. I mean, you look at a game like Squadrons, which was announced just a few months before the full release, and that game just kind of felt like it came out of nowhere, and is that EA's plan from now on, to announce a game just a few months before the actual release date? I would think not. I think Squadrons was kind of the outlier there. Anyway, this tweet and question got a response from Matt, who replied saying he hasn't been so excited about the future of Star Wars games in a very, very long time. He followed up on this by saying he was even more excited about the upcoming slate of Star Wars games than he was back during LucasArts' incredible run from 2004 to 2005. I actually made a video about exactly that like a year ago, because between 04 and 05, I mean, LucasArts was just pumping out quality games at an unbelievable rate. I mean, I would say over half of the older Star Wars games people still talk about today came out during those 2 years alone, most of them just in 2005. Republic Commando, Knights of the Old Republic 2, the first LEGO Star Wars, I mean, both of the original Battlefronts came out over those 2 years. It was an insane time for quality games, and the head of the story group over at Lucasfilm is saying he's even more excited and confident in the upcoming slate of games than he was back then, during a run of games that is mind-blowing to think about. Of course, nowadays games take longer to develop, but LucasArts was just on another level back then. In another follow-up tweet, when Matt was asked when EA will announce the Star Wars games they haven't revealed yet, Matt said he isn't able to give info on the unannounced projects, which, I mean, obviously anyone at Lucasfilm would probably be fired in a heartbeat if they revealed anything major ahead of schedule. In addition to that, Matt put out a tweet saying that even after all of the Star Wars announcements the other day, the ones for the films and Disney Plus shows, that was only a fraction of what Lucasfilm is working on but has yet to announce. And the first thing he mentions are games, and right under that tweet someone asks about the games, because right now there's like nothing announced, and Matt tells the guy to strap in, so they must be working on something big. At any rate, if you're someone like me who follows Star Wars news pretty closely, this is all excellent to hear. The past few months have been somewhat worrying when it comes to what exactly EA is planning for the next few years of Star Wars games. I am just as sick as you guys probably are of hearing people talk about EA's apparent plan to double down on the Star Wars license, but that claim was made by EA CEO over a year ago, and in that time the only two major things they've done is shut down Battlefront and release Squadrons, which is a quality game, but its appeal is pretty narrow. The sales were very good for a flight sim, but compared to Fallen Order or Battlefront, it is a small fraction of the audience. Squadrons has been out for 2.5 months and has sold just over 1 million copies, and in comparison, Battlefront 2 sold over 10 million copies just in the first month, and that's despite the disastrous launch that game had. Also, Fallen Order, a game with a smaller appeal than Battlefront, but still a pretty mainstream title, sold over 7 million in the first month. Keep in mind those sales have very little to do with the quality of Squadrons. Squadrons is just a much smaller game with a very specific audience, and the point is, going back to EA's doubling down comment, one small-scale game in the past year plus with no confirmed or announced game for next year isn't exactly what doubling down sounded like to most people, especially from a huge publisher like EA with over 20 major game studios. But with what Matt Martin is saying, it seems as though EA just hasn't announced certain projects that are in the pipeline. What those projects could be, I mean, who knows? I genuinely believe a Star Wars multiplayer shooter of some kind is inevitable for the somewhat near future. I mean, EA is a company, they like money, and by not having an actively supported Star Wars game that they can add content to, they are missing out on major money. I mean, honestly, from a money left on the table perspective, it's kind of ironic that EA, Electronic Arts of all companies, has no game out there they can actively support with all the new Star Wars coming out. I mean, that is just printing money. Mandalorian Season 2 alone, no spoilers of course, but holy mother of God, the amount of opportunities for cosmetics and DLC characters in an actively supported Star Wars game are countless, and EA just can't capitalize on those opportunities because they don't have a major game out there other than Squadrons, which is a flight sim, receiving any content. It's insane, and saying it's a missed opportunity doesn't even come close to cutting it. That is the understatement of the century. Saying it's just a missed opportunity should be a federal crime. Especially now, when you think about Disney revealing 37 different shows and a few movies that are all apparently releasing over the next few years, there is no way EA is not scrambling to get out some sort of game that can support content like those shows would offer to a mainstream multiplayer Star Wars game. They already had a perfectly good one they pulled the plug on, but that's over and done with, and I just think that a continually updated game with seasons of content from EA is an inevitability. I just hope they take enough time with it so they don't have another repeat of Battlefront 1 and 2's launch. I really don't want to have to deal with another game that has to have some miraculous comeback. As nice of a story as that is, getting it right the first time at launch sounds much more appealing, at least to me. Call me crazy, but I just think that's the way to do it. Anyway guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Actual great news directly from Lucasfilm, and reason to be optimistic for the near future of Star Wars games. With that said, thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy and could drop a like, I would definitely appreciate it, and if you are new around here, feel free to subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
I'm hot solo.